I know. Oh yeah.
I know this one. It's just a wedding podcast.
What's going on, guys? We're back.
I wanted my It's Just a Wedding singing to be in the cut.
We're absolutely not going to have you singing It's Just a Wedding in the opening of our podcast.
It's just a wedding.
So I feel like we're on a streak of shitty weather, shitty weather, good weather. I'm looking out the window. I'm seeing gray skies and raindrops, Julia.
Yeah, it was freaking storming all day today, and I have to go do an engagement shoot, so hopefully it stops.
And what's insane is it's 72 degrees today, and it's supposed to be 92 degrees the rest of the week.
Sunny.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cleveland.
I'm excited for it. I love the hot weather.
Julia, liking the hot weather. Okay. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, you're gearing up to go to Florida soon,
Yeah, in a
correct?
few weeks, yeah.
You and the fam. What part of Florida?
Sarasota.
Ooh-wee, Sarasota, Florida. Well, just know that Nick and I will be in Cleveland slaying weddings while you're gone. So,
Enjoy the Gulf of America.
so as you guys always know, we want to start off each show with one of our wedding horror stories.
Yep.
So, I want to keep one short and sweet because I am excited about today's topic. So, we've all done weddings before, and by the entrance door, there's usually a table which has either a card box or some sort of little contraption that people come in, they slip their card into, all that fun stuff. So I remember this now about 2-3 years ago. We're at a wedding, and all of a sudden I literally see cops flying by, running, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it turns out that somebody had come into the wedding and they snagged the card box, and they were trying to run out of the wedding because, especially at Italian weddings like myself, a lot of cash gets put in those cards. So it's brutal. So they came in, they snatched the card box, and out the door they went.
Was it a guest or a random person?
So
Yeah,
I
'cause
wish.
how would they know there's a wedding going on?
Well, I mean, come on.
Well, no, I mean, not just that, but, how would they know it's a wedding going on to the point where they have enough money to have, money, a lot of money in those invitations?
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer. I don't know that it was a friend or family member or just a rando off the street, but I mean, a Saturday night, 200 cars in parking lot, you can probably make a pretty good assumption at most halls that a wedding is going to be taking place. So now, I'll get a little bit more later, but you see more and more halls now. They're taking the card box, they're locking it up, an hour into the wedding in the office, so that kind of stuff doesn't happen. And later on at the end, I'll even go back and give you guys a pro tip as to how you can avoid this, because believe it or not, this is at a really swanky place in Cleveland. So this is not necessarily a bad area where things like this happen. Unfortunately, anywhere there's large amounts of cash, these types of things can happen. So
Yeah.
So
I
make
know-
sure you guys stick around for the tips and tidbits from Scott on how to protect your money and your investment.
So
yeah,
is
your
that-
money, your investment, right?
So is that why they always have the locks on the box now? On the
Well, we're
card
going to get
boxes?
into that, Julia. That's part of the
Okay.
you're putting the cart before the horse there, aren't you? A little bit. So, guys, today's going to be one of those good ones. I'm not going to say what I always say, Julia. It's not going to be not going to go there. But I have promised that some of these episodes are going to be super interesting for brides. Some of the episodes might be really appealing to other wedding vendors. This is one of the few topics that I really do see as potentially being polarizing for both vendors as well as brides. And something that our viewers might notice that's a little different from this episode is we have these little awards on our table here, and I'm sure that you've gone to websites as you're looking and you're doing your planning, and you've seen, today's bride, Best of Weddings Hall of Fame award, and you've seen the WeddingWire award, you've seen, all of those things, all of those things, and I'm here to tell you that everything that you see is complete and total bullshit.
It's all a scam, right?
It's literally half of a scam.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say all of a scam. I would say it's literally half of a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that being said, there are some good things that come out of the Not WeddingWire, but something that you, our viewers, might be interested to know is these plaques here. They look really nice, and you see them at bridal shows. When you walk into a photographer's studio, into our office, you're going to see them all displayed. One thing that the viewers may not know is that I actually bought this.
Really?
Actually paid
Yeah.
my money out of my pocket and purchased this. Now, the caveat to that is you do need to physically win the award from, WeddingWire or the Knot to make the purchase, but they're not even buying the
How much
vendors.
did that thing run you?
That's part of the scam. So as you can see, this one's a little bit bigger than that one, which is even a little bit bigger.
They're
than
not
this one.
glass, guys.
There's also like different kinds. They have don't they have the ones on the wood?
Yeah, there's
they
like
have
wood
different
plaques. There's acrylic. There's this little cheap ass one here.
They have plastic ones.
I like that one,
Honestly,
though.
they're all like between like $50 and like $130.
Really?
And it's outrageous. But that's not even my point. So I think what's important is like we talk to clients all the time, Julie and myself, and Nick, you sat in on one last week. And when you talk to these clients, like, well, where are you getting your information from? Some brides are like, oh, we're getting it from, bridal shows. They went to a Today's Bride show. That's a great resource.
Yeah.
Other brides are saying that they're using these online places like the Knot and WeddingWire, and they really take these resources as like a really tried and true place of honesty. And I'm here to just explain to our viewers and to the brides exactly how this works. So we're kind of going to, take the top off this thing a little bit. And I'm probably going to make the Knot and WeddingWire a little angry. I don't care. I'm probably going to make a couple vendors angry.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really care. But I do think it's important for brides and grooms to understand what this is. Now, what they say, both the Knot and WeddingWire. Now, first of all, about 3 years ago, WeddingWire was actually purchased by the Knot.
Okay.
So a lot of people,
I think a lot
particularly
of people don't
brides,
know
they don't know that. So now on the vendor side, it's all one company called WeddingPro. And what's even more BS about it, and I'm going to get into how they charge, they're actually still charging vendors like us 2 separate prices to appear on the WeddingWire side of the website as well as the Knot side of the website, despite the fact that it's really one company.
Interesting.
So for those at home who aren't familiar, are they a nationally recognized brand, or are they just
They're
regional
national.
and local?
They're
So the
national.
Knot and WeddingPro is actually a worldwide
Yeah.
brand
Worldwide.
now. As a matter of fact, like in our CRM, they come up as they do over like 5 billion a year with a B. So they are like a big boy brand in the world right now. So they are, they're the real deal.
It's typically a lot of money in the scams.
They're- I won't get into too much of the part of it, but it would be worth a Google if you went and Googled the Knot whistleblowers. There's some litigation going on right now in the country, which is really interesting. That's not what this topic is about today, but if you want to take some time, listen to a few other podcasts or do some reading, I think even that would really surprise people.
Yeah.
But
Well-
so
It does say right here, voted by real couples.
it does.
So how does that play into the whole accolade side of the spectrum?
So that's a great question. And that's what I feel like the typical bride and groom are thinking. So I want to kind of explain that. So, actually what they say specifically is it's the top 5% is the language that they use of wedding vendor in Cleveland or in the nation or whatever market you're in as voted by couples. But what most couples don't know is that in the real world, for a vendor to win this award, it takes 5-star reviews. Now, that could be one of your
members.
employees.
Yeah.
It could be your aunt. It could be your uncle. It could be your best friend. It takes 5.
Wow.
That's
Now-
not that much.
That's not that much at all to win this award that says you're in the top 5% of wedding vendors in your area. That might be just a tidbit misleading.
But people don't know it's the top 5%. So
They
that's where
don't.
They think that they're
why we're here.
the top dogs, and that's why they want to get them.
And I think the problem is for companies that I think, it might come across as a little bit arrogant, but I view us as one of the top companies, certainly in Cleveland, if not around the country as far as what we do, certainly in the Midwest. And it really waters it down when you see companies that, we're doing 300 weddings a year and, quite a bit of revenue, and you get, some company who started 6 weeks ago who had, their friends do
Right.
some reviews and they've got the exact same award as us, which is a little crazy.
And it's also misleading at bridal shows when vendors bring all these awards to show and try to get clients. When
Right.
everyone has them, it's
Now-
just nobody brings them all.
You're exactly right. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. So, if you get a good review, right, nobody's going to question that. So, Nick, if you wrote a review in my company right now, I'm not going to be like, well, I've never done business with Nick. I'm just going to be happy to have a 5-star review. So,
Right.
the company doesn't care. And WeddingWire or WeddingPro doesn't care because their client is happy they got a 5-star review.
Right.
The only time it works the other way, okay, is when it comes to a negative review. Now, this has happened to us in the past where a couple or person may have wrongfully wrote a review, and WeddingWire and the Knot, or now WeddingPro, does have the ability to dispute that review. And one of the things that they do is, as the person who wrote the review, you need to be able to produce a contract that says that you have contracted services with that company in order to leave that review. So in other words, they give vendors like ourselves a little bit of protection there, that one of your competitors can't go on and have all their friends go write shitty reviews, which is kind of a nice thing. But at the end of the day, the other side is, well, then if 10 people write good reviews, there's nothing they're going to do about it. Now, they do have some protections built in, to be honest. Like, I think they are monitoring things like IP addresses, so you can't just make like 10 different, Google or Gmail and all of a sudden just write 10 of your own reviews. But but still, it's pretty skewed. So when you look at these things, you got to get into the quality of what you're looking at. Now, as you're scrolling through these profiles, you're going to see literally just Jamie, 5 stars. Now, that may have been a legitimate client of a company, and they may have legitimately felt that it was a 5-star of service they received. However, I think what most clients are going to find is, as you are looking through these profiles, people who are going to take the time to go out and write a positive or 5-star review for the company, most of the time they're going to go and give a little bit of background there. So reading through the reviews is going to be really helpful. Just the length of the review, the way the language is, does it sound like a real story? Those are some things that you're going to want to check.
Right. And also, you could take it a step further and look at that person leaving the review. Who have they left reviews to other companies? What have they said about other companies? What have they said to other people?
Can you check that on the
If that's their only review.
That's a great question. We can look into that. I don't know
You can do that on Google and stuff.
Yeah, you certainly can on Google. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
but I
if
I don't think the reviews from Google automatically go to the Not WeddingWire.
no, it's a completely separate platform. Now there might be like where like a bride can like put all of her vendors like on her like Knot or WeddingWire page. So you might be able to physically go through and be like, oh, they used company XYZ. Click on that profile and then go see if they also left a review there. So there might be some like manual way of doing that. I just don't know that you can just click on like the person's name and it just shows you everywhere where they left a review on the platform.
Well, maybe it'll say Jennifer Smith 1 review and then Stacy Susie left 3,800 reviews.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's actually a good question. And really, if nothing else, that's a good suggestion
Why I'm here.
to WeddingPro to say, hey, this would be one way that you can help clients possibly verify what is that they're looking at.
Yeah.
So WeddingPro, if you're watching this, don't take it too personal. We're trying to help you out here.
So that's a really important thing. So you go back to these reviews, top 5%, 5 reviews, you win the award, okay? Now, the other thing is on all of these websites, including ours, you're going to see these little thumbnails and click here to read our reviews. One of the beefs that a lot of companies have is WeddingWire nor the Knot police these thumbnails whatsoever. So it is 100% possible that you could right-click one of these badges and hit save on Google, put it on your website, and the client would not be the wiser if they didn't think to like click through and actually kind of follow up on it. They may just be doing a quick research, go through, okay, these guys won these awards, and that might be kind of good enough for them. So it's always good, click it, actually go to their page, do a little bit of research, and try to find out, what's going on there.
So let's talk about why this is beneficial to the bride and groom at home. And it's obviously a talking point for us for a reason. It's beneficial to you guys at home so you guys can know what to look for, to spot those red flags, spot the green flags, right?
So it's a really good point, because the reason why we are on WeddingWire or Knot, like I realize that like someone could be like, well, this is a little hypocritical. Like these guys not only are on WeddingWire and Knot, but we actually have paid placement, and I want to get into that too. But as far as your question, Nick, as far as one of the things that are good, so when you reach out to any company, Julia, my guess would be is that if someone reached out to you about Cufflink Media and asked you to tell a little bit about the company, my guess would be is that you're going to say glowing things, that we do a great job, we work hard for you, we do things the right way. Mm-hmm. Is that safe to assume?
Yeah.
And I think that any logical person is going to want to do that. So one cool thing about WeddingWire and the Knot is it does give you this place to go outside of the actual wedding vendor where you can actually read and get some real-time reviews and kind of see what other like-minded customers experiences they've had, with those specific, vendor, which is nice. And that's where, again, it goes back to reading the reviews because you can tell, right? Like which one was like their buddy that just went to ChatGPT and just said like write a review and like what that spits out with like emojis and all this weird language versus like someone who like, hey, these people made it the most special night of my life. We can't thank them enough. We'll recommend them, to the moon and back. And you can tell, what's legit. You can absolutely tell.
Yeah. And then also a good plus is that the Knot and WeddingWire is one spot you can go to and you have access to all the vendors in your area.
Right.
It's like one place where you can find everything you need and everything, well, basically everything you need for a wedding.
Literally everything. They do an incredible job of just like kind of categorizing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's good and bad to that, and I'm going to expose the other side, okay? So if you go to the Knot or WeddingWire and you click into the photography category, you're going to notice that it's going to populate a list, okay? Now, what most clients don't know that we know, they have a couple categories. They have like a spotlight category, which is at the top, and then they have like a second tier category, I believe now a third tier category, and then there is one free category, but I think you need to have a minimum threshold of reviews. So in other words, when you go to look at best Cleveland wedding photographers, and you click on that link and end up on the Knot, and you see the top 5 companies pop up, you probably want to assume that, wow, the Knot or WeddingWire, they're saying these are the top 5 Cleveland wedding photographers. What I'm here to tell you, those are the top 5 people that paid them the most money to sit in the top 5, 6, 7 spots on that page. These are just absolute facts. And the people who pay the next amount of money, guess what? They're going to be in slots 7, 8, 9, and 10. And the people who pay the next amount of money will be in 11, 12, 13, and 14, and so on and so forth.
Cufflink Media in that top 5?
Cufflink Media is not. So I believe that we realized how ridiculous this scam was a couple years back. So I believe that we are down into one tier. Based on the amount of vendors on the page in our market, we still generally appear in that first in the first page of reviews, which we feel like kind of fits our needs. Because ideally for us, all we're using the Knot and WeddingWire for, we're not using it to like actually get leads and book weddings. When our customers find us at a bridal show or through word of mouth or through on Google through just kind of standard searches, we want them to be able to do a quick search of our reviews, and we know that that's one really great place to do it. So we would never just completely discontinue the use, but where you hear a lot of these companies talk about like, oh, are we getting fake leads or we're not booking enough from it? Honestly, for us, we're using it as more of like a social proof or proof of concept than
like
we
a
are.
Gallery, but for reviews.
Exactly.
It's not your main source of advertisement.
Right. I mean, that's a great way of putting it. So now you got the awards that we're finding out are kind of BS. You're finding out that the placement of where the company falls on the list is based solely on how much money they spent with the company. And I hope that our watchers, our fans are now starting to see that there is a little bit of house of cards here. So there is more to it than simply just clicking on the Knot, clicking on WeddingWire, and seeing these guys have won the Knot Best of Weddings Award. They're in the Hall of Fame. Because all this award means, I'm happy to tell people, is that we've paid them like 8 years in a row. And that's why we're in the Hall of Fame. So I think we do a fantastic job. I think that we are in the top 5% of wedding vendors. I think we are absolutely deserving of this accolade. I just think that we are one of very few people that are actually deserving of an accolade like this.
Okay.
Very good. So let's segue from that topic because I think it's important. If you're saying that the Knot and the WeddingWire could have a facade upon certain things and it might be monetarily based, how can a bride choose her vendors? What are some of the red flags that you can look for vendors?
Red flags or green flags?
Both. Let's get into them both.
Okay.
So
a couple of things. So let's talk about the positive things first. So in my experience, most vendors in Cleveland, when you're playing the bigger halls, and I have to imagine the same is true of every market in the country, they're going to ask that those companies carry a liability insurance policy. In most cases, I think the standard threshold tends to be about a $2 million liability insurance policy. In our case, that's exactly what we do carry, and we actually make that certificate downloadable right on our website so people can find it very easily, submit it to their hall, and it's just one less thing to do. So that's number one. So insurance is a big one because they're putting time and effort in their brand.
Yeah.
Another thing is in the state of Ohio, there's something you literally go to Google and type in like Ohio business lookup. And you're going to be able to go there and type in the name of whatever company you're considering. So if it's us, Sound Precision Entertainment. And it's going to populate and show that this is an active licensed company in the state of Ohio since, in our case, 2011. So you're going to know that this is a company that is recognized by the state of Ohio. They are licensed. They carry insurance. A massive red flag would be that if the person that you're considering doing business with hasn't even paid the $150 to register their company with the state of Ohio or any state that you're in, that would be a potential pretty big red flag.
Certainly. 100%. I think another big thing is just word of mouth. If you could take the legality things aside, obviously that makes or breaks huge for what makes something, but word of mouth is always going to be huge.
I mean,
especially in the wedding industry. That's
Especially in the
how
wedding industry.
word travels. That's how people get to know about vendors.
And I think
more.
it's the best way for somebody to have a wedding. The DJ did a phenomenal job. All the guests had a great job. It's the one industry that for sure all those guests are going to remember that DJ for how good of a job he did. And that's where you get the word of mouth. Hey, who did your wedding?
Right.
I'm getting married in 2 years. I want that person.
well, you guys are both right because I don't care how nice your website is, how much money you spend with places like this, how many Google reviews you get. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, that is going to be better than if your friend, if your mom, if your neighbor went to a wedding or an event and saw you physically performing your job. And if you knocked it out of the park, those people will sing your praises better than you ever could.
Yep. And that's the telltale because people do business with people they like. And
That's
if you
true.
do a terrible job, see you later.
Absolutely.
And to take it a step further, the equipment. What's the quality of your equipment? How much equipment do you have? What happens if your only camera breaks? Do you have a backup camera? Do you have backup speakers?
Yep.
That right there will show you the extensiveness of that company.
And here's a
Big
little bit of a
factor.
pro tip for any young bride out there. So we're not expecting clients, right? Like, so in our company, we use Italian-made RCF speakers. We think they're great. They're my favorite sounding speaker. Most companies do not, right? Because they're not going to spend that kind of money that we do. However, I don't expect a bride to know these different brands and what's good and what's bad and what sounds tinny and hollow and all that. So just like with the insurance, with the $2 million liability, most bigger companies also carry a insurance policy on their gear. Well, you can only insure an amount that is applicable with what you own. So one way to ask your vendor, kind of a pro tip without asking your vendor, is like, oh, do you carry insurance? And if so, what amount do you carry on your equipment? If you hear them say like, oh, well, we carry a $10,000 policy, you can probably feel pretty confident that they're very new to the game. They don't have a lot of equipment, and probably the equipment that they do have is not, very high end. Whereas if a company says, oh, we have a $500,000 rider, $1 million rider or beyond, now well, they've done it for a while. They probably spent a lot of money on the equipment that they do have, and it's just kind of one of those ways to ask an important question without asking the question.
And for those of you who don't know the cost of what goes into the gear, $10,000 to cover your gear, that's maybe a DJ rig,
I mean, nothing.
like the speakers maybe.
I mean, without getting off on a tangent, because obviously I own the company. So yesterday, our editor and myself went to a company out on the east side here, and we built a brand new editing rig. And without even going crazy, we spent $7,200. I mean, that's for one computer.
Yeah, so
that's
what's
not
10
the
grand?
cameras, the lenses, the lights, the
Right.
microphones. That's one computer.
So what is 10 grand going to do to you? So I think that's a very important question for the brides at home to ask is what kind of equipment insurance they have. And that'll tell you right there their capabilities from an equipment perspective.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Along those same lines, so we mentioned, reviews here. Well, obviously Google is a big one, right? So
Google's
check
big.
in Google reviews. Make sure when you're typing something like Cleveland Wedding DJ, don't be fooled by a sponsored link versus an organic link.
Right.
Just like these guys here, if you click on like the first or second thing you see, guess what? That company is paying to be the first or second thing you see. So you want to go beyond the sponsored and go to those first organic links. And the reason those people are getting that organic traffic is they're bigger, they're well established, they have good websites, they put out constant relevant content, they're active on social media, and all of those triggers that search engines are looking for as far as how to rank, how much traffic the website gets, those are the things that you want to help determine which vendors you want to do business with, not who paid $50 to appear at the top of the list for the 2 weeks before the first of the year.
And anybody can make a Google business profile, but to take it a step further, check out their website. How extensive is their website, right? Do they have a fully laid out website, or is it just a homepage with a couple photos and a bio? How deep does their website really go? Is there connected payment platforms onto that website? Is there sublinks? Is there links that take you elsewhere? How's their social media presence? Can you access all of the social media presence from their website?
Is there a sample of their work?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Samples of their work. That's huge.
Yeah, I think in photo and video,
yeah.
like, because like what are things that like on
The photo videos.
yeah,
that
like
I look
what
for?
stuff are like typically there?
I usually like to look at their photos and videos just to see like their gallery and what they look like. Also, I like to see if they keep it updated, seeing if they have the newer stuff out there and new photos and update their website, because that's how you know when a photographer is really like working, when they keep updating stuff. Because I know some photographers, they're like, oh, I haven't updated my website in like years. I need to do it. Well, then obviously something is going on there on why they're not updating it, because that's a huge, huge thing. I think it's a red flag when you're not updating it or putting recent work on
This is
there.
a trendy business. If you're not updating it, you're getting left behind.
And
I mean,
That
that's
just shows how much they care.
That's
Yeah.
a fantastic point. I mean, and I think you can take that exact same point and carry it right over to social media. Like if you log into somebody's Instagram and they haven't posted in 9 months, 10 months, or a year, why? That's a red flag, because if you love what you do, if you think you do a great job and you're a big believer in what you do, you want people to see that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you want to post your new work. You want to be proud of it. And I feel like when people don't keep up with it and don't keep posting or sharing, then they don't feel proud enough that it should be on social media or it should be on their website.
Right.
They don't think it's good enough. So if it's not updated, there's a reason for it.
And let's just be honest, like if the reason really comes down to lack of knowledge and or lack of effort, like too bad, because we all have been to YouTube University. Everybody's got a phone now. Everyone's got a phone, and you can literally go out and see how to, utilize TikTok, how to utilize Instagram, the reels, the stories, all of those kind of things. And yes, is it hard? Yeah, we do it every day, and it's a pain in the ass. Is it fun? Not always, but is it necessary? Yes, 100%.
So let's talk about some of the I guess, for lack of better words, the nitty gritty stuff, right? What about a contract? What if they don't have a contract? That's a huge
You
sign.
have to have a contract.
You have to have a contract. That helps the vendor maintain legality purposes. But if you're going to book a wedding DJ or a wedding photographer and that person does not present you with a contract, find another wedding photographer or DJ.
You're in trouble, because then the vendor can take advantage of you. They don't have any deadlines where they need to deliver your photos or videos. They don't have any, basically there's nothing there. They can do whatever they want to their client, and there's going to be no repercussions, because they're going to be like, did you sign a contract? No.
Yeah, what that comes down to is just sheer professionalism.
Right.
You need those terms to be outlined clearly from the beginning and need to be agreed to. That is how business works, and that's how business is conducted.
And along the same lines, another potential red flag. So if I'll give us as an example. So we do the DJ, the photo, and the video. So we ask for an $800 deposit per vertical. So we did all three, it'd be $2,400, and so on and so forth. Now, many times, I'm going to get a question where, well, what if we pay in all cash? Or what if we pay all up front? Now, at the end of the day, it's everybody's prerogative. They're welcome to pay whatever way they're comfortable. They're welcome to budget any way they're comfortable. But what I can tell you is there is zero advantage to giving that vendor all of that money up front. In my opinion, zero advantage, because any reputable company like myself, you still have to claim all of that revenue. And I would be super happy today if somebody I would be super thrilled today if somebody was excited enough to pay me the amount in full. Absolutely. But I promise you next year I'll be crying. Literally, I'll be crying because that money is going to be gone.
Yeah.
So talk about a red flag. Put the deposit down, lock in the date. But really, in my opinion, there's really no reason to pay big money out front. Another red flag. You sit down with the vendor and they say, hey, normally we're $2,500 to do this job. And you say, okay, that's pretty typical. And they say, but if you pay me $1,200 today in full, we'll do that. Now, you laugh, but you can go
That's real,
into Facebook group after Facebook group after Facebook group, and you're going to be able to find more and more people who have been burned on scams like that. So it's definitely something you're going to want to take a look at.
It's one of those things you pay for the quality of what you're going to get. If the market calls for between $2,000 to $3,000 for similar services, and some guy wants to offer you $1,000 for it, that's your key indicator that that person is going to be a scam or not going to be of quality that you're looking for.
Also, Facebook groups are a great way to find out about bad vendors and companies that are basically being sketchy, because a lot of times they'll report people who don't show up or take your money and don't do their job and everything. They chat.
So for me, I take groups like that with a grain of salt because you're right. There is some definite information that can be disseminated in a Facebook group. However, in my opinion, and what I can tell every bride, and I can be very confident when saying this, the vast majority of larger established wedding brands, regardless of category, the bigger boys are not worried about monitoring Facebook groups. And for the most part, those groups are what we consider a race to the bottom. So we are not interested as being one of the industry leaders, as somebody who kind of raises the bar in the wedding field, racing to the bottom, whether it be the types of service, what you charge, or otherwise. So by all means, use it as a resource, do some homework. It's one more kind of tool in the toolbox. But if you're looking to book high-end, quality vendors who've done it for a long time, just know that the biggest and best of what we do are not monitoring Facebook groups on a day-to-day. We're just not doing it.
No.
It's that simple.
And so how do you guys feel about overselling a client? Is that a red flag? Because I do want to think that, if a product is good, if your photos are great, and if your DJ performance is incredible, it'll sell itself. But at the same time, you do need sales. That's a part of business. So how do you feel, as a business owner at least, about the overselling?
So that's a really good question, and it's a tough one to answer because I would say my personal style or belief, if you will, is that I do my best to, I would say, use the soft sell. I look at it listen, I'm very confident in who we are as a company. I'm very proud of the product that we have put together. And my belief is that if you come in, you meet my team, you see what we do, you read our reviews, and you see our price, which is not cheap, but certainly fair by industry standard, I believe that once you compare apples to apples, you're going to feel very confident and comfortable choosing one of my two companies. So I'm not a huge fan of overselling. I want people to have that right feeling in their belly. I want them to not feel buyer's remorse. I want them to sign a contract and literally know we just made a great decision for our wedding.
So you don't want to push people and be that pushy salesman. So you'd recommend, if a bride is feeling like she's in the face of a pushy salesman, to probably look elsewhere?
I mean,
I think it makes people feel uncomfortable too.
Sure.
I mean, yes and no. The reason I'm struggling with the question, Nick, is because there truly are times where there's great vendors out there who just say, hey, look, we do 3 weddings in a day. We've got 2 booked. If you take the spot, it's yours. If not, somebody else will. And they have the chops to back up a statement like that. So there are times where people do kind of a hard sale and it's necessary. So I don't want to blanket the industry. But as a whole, when you are asking somebody to make a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 purchase, I do not think that it's unreasonable that they should be able to listen to what you say, take everything into consideration, talk it over with family and friends, and then make a decision that's best for them and their family. So, I mean, I think those really are very good questions.
Do we miss anything?
Looking through, I feel pretty good. One that I wrote down that I think is important. So we've heard time and time again Julie has heard this more than anybody, where a bride will reach out to multiple vendors, and vendors do not get back to their bride.
They ghost them.
Literally, they call it ghosting. There's a really good book by Mr. Alan Berg called "Why Are Brides Ghosting Me?" and it works both ways. But talk about a red flag, Nick. Like, if somebody is reaching out to you for a service that you provide, and you do not have the courtesy to respond to that person within a reasonable amount of time, which by today's standards, I don't think that 24 hours is unreasonable, then you should absolutely move on from that vendor, regardless of how nice the website is, how good the reviews are, and otherwise. So I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, the timeliness factor is huge. If they want to get back to you 2 weeks after your inquiry, then they're probably not checking their email that much.
Exactly.
If they get back to you within 24 to 48 hours, they're checking their email pretty frequently.
And that kind of says something about their business, because if their business really is that important to the owner or whoever's working within that business, then they would be responding as soon as possible, or like almost every day during the weekday. Maybe not on the weekends, but on the weekdays they should be responding every day, looking through their emails. And if they're not, then obviously they don't really care much about the service or getting those clients in.
Yeah, and that gives me a few side notes I just thought of instantaneously. How does their business card look? Do they even have a business card? Do they have any marketing material at all? What's their market footprint? Additionally, what's their email address? Is it just dj@gmail.com? Like, is it a Gmail, or is it a @domain?
Is it not important enough to them to spend the $5 or $7 a month to have a professional looking or sounding email?
That can go both ways in the photo industry anyways, because a lot of photographers, especially solo, use their own name in their emails. Or
but
that's the thing.
it could very
Like, that
easily
could be
be
different.
Scott at Scott Terranova Photography. Like, it doesn't have to be scottphotography@gmail.com.
Yeah.
The email domain itself.
Right.
Some people use Gmail as to use their own thing, because I know sometimes if you go to GoDaddy, like one time when I did my own photography domain and I paid for it, I just paid for my name, my last name, photography@gmail.com, just to have it
Brutal.
in there. But like,
Yeah, you gotta,
You know,
that's not a domain.
well, I paid for the Julia web photography one, and so
Oh,
I
like
could
a
have it
web
as a
domain.
website.
Yeah, she got a web domain,
But
yeah.
sometimes they only pay for the website and they don't pay for the email because they can create that.
So I mean, and this is what's great about this is, like, obviously Julia works with us, so I think she is a fantastic photographer, and I think she does a fantastic job for us on the business side. But like, this is the stuff that we're talking about. Here is a smart girl who has a college degree in photography, who just didn't know the particulars on, okay, I'm going to lock up my web domain for my name versus how does that translate over into an email domain. And I think this is the perfect example of someone who, obviously you're a quality person, a quality wedding vendor. But again, what that probably speaks to is, you're obviously younger and prettier than me. So, it's one of those things where, clearly once you've been in the game for a little bit, you start to learn these kind of things. So
Yeah,
if
and
nothing else, that's going to tell you, hey, maybe they are very good at what they do, but because
They're
they might not
starting
know A, B, or C, they might just be a little bit newer to the game. So that's
Yeah,
kind of one more
and
thing.
also, like, starting out in the game too, a lot of photographers start out as a single person photography. Well, yeah. And they don't start out with a bunch of money right off the bat. So they'll put it towards what is important. And I think the most important as a photographer is getting the domain for the website, because you have to have a website, if
Then
anything.
let me revise that statement. We'll just direct that @company name email address to the big fishes who think they're big. If you claim to be this giant operation company and you're telling your customers that, but you have an @Gmail domain instead of a @companyname.com domain, then that is an indicator
Yeah.
versus a solo op and a multi-app.
Another big one that I think is important, although I will caveat by saying it's less important today, which I'm sad about, but any company that's going to have a brick and mortar, a place of business, in our case, we're very blessed. We've got the studio that we're sitting in right now. We've got an office. We've got warehouse. We have a whole showroom. So, we're really lucky. So I think clearly, to a bride, if you are talking to vendors that have all of these things, you can probably rest assured that, hey, like, for them to have gotten to this point, like, it took a lot of experience. It took a lot of business, a lot of money, so those are nice things. Now, I will say the caveat is I do not want to go on record saying that you cannot be a great or quality vendor without having all of these things, because I know several myself. So it's not like an absolute thing that you have to have, but it is a nice to have. And I will also say that, you know, a lot of that is because of our clients, right? Like pre-COVID, we had this beautiful office in showroom, and I used to think of it as like, man, this is like having a home game. People come into our office, our setting, our lights, all of our cool stuff, and man, that gave us a big advantage. COVID hits, and now probably 90 to 95% of our new inquiries are either done through phone or even through Zoom. And we have done some really cool, innovative Zoom things, which I think on another episode we're going to kind of talk about that. But, I mean, for all you brides out there, if it's important to you, feel free to ask, can we have an in-person meeting? I always think putting a face to the name, getting a chance to see who they work with, what is the culture of the office, are things that are going to help better advise as to which company you'd like to celebrate with on your big day.
Yeah.
And one more note I made before we get into the no tucks given, which is important, no tucks given, is, you know, I feel like I've read an article recently and Google is slowly dying, right? Like, and it's being replaced by ChatGPT and or AI. So there is nothing wrong with opening your phone and going, hey, ChatGPT, please tell me the best Cleveland wedding DJs in the area, and see what it spits out. Now, we all know that AI makes mistakes and it's not always perfectly curated, but it absolutely is a good resource to start with, and it might just be a bit easier and save you some time over needing to pull out, you know, go on websites or your laptop. Just, it might be easier. So it's just one more resource I think people can utilize. It can even, like, rather than having to go to the Knot and go to WeddingWire and go to Google, it can just kind of like pull all of those sources together and say, hey, like, based on this, this company's got this many reviews here, here, and here, and it just saves you time, which is saving you money, and it's just one more cool thing that you can do to kind of help yourself through the process, right?
Yeah.
Excellent point, old sport.
Old sport, old man. So listen, today was, you know, we went just about an hour, maybe about 50 minutes on this topic, and we have a couple more things to go through.
Wow.
But honestly, this was probably my favorite topic, because I do think that today is going to bring the most value to brides today. You listen to this episode right now today, you have better insight 1 hour from the time you didn't listen to it. And I'm not saying that we gave them this earth-shattering information or stuff that just, you know, nobody else knows, but it is, I think, always good to hear it right from the horse's mouth. This is how these awards get done. This is why they're listed like this online. These people have this kind of website. These people have that kind of website. All of those things, the tips, the tricks of the industry, the hidden stuff, you know, I'm going to expose it all. I don't care. That's what we're here to do.
You know? But don't go anywhere, because there's more.
Yeah.
It's now time for the no tucks given. Can we still get one of those?
No.
No tucks given. All the dudes, all the fellows, all the guys out there. We've all seen it between NFL, NBA, soccer, anywhere. It's just male bravado for the dudes to have a handshake, right? Male bravado for the dude to have, especially in particular like NBA games and the NFL, is coming out of the tunnel, having the arena feel where you got your boys lined up around you, you're coming out, you're dapping people up, you're running on the field, whatever. Same thing with like concerts. Morgan Wallen's doing it a bunch, where he's doing his entrance into the stadium and he's doing a tunnel walkout.
I love Morgan Wallen.
He's a goat. I mean, what can I say? Morgan Wallen is the male version of Taylor Swift. So I mean, what are you gonna do? But I mean, the point of this, gentlemen, is that if you were gonna get married and you were gonna have all your friends there and you're gonna have all your groomsmen, whatever, we got to do something for you guys out there. It's not just about the bride. It's also just as much as it is about you as it is her. So let's do some like handshakes.
And what I love about it is, like, you know, sometimes you get these outgoing groups of guys and like they're going to come out and literally do these crazy dances or do the worm, or they're going to, you know, wheelbarrow out and all that. And that's cool. And by all means, if you've got that outgoing group of guys, then absolutely you should do that. But we all have those friends who are just a little bit more like reserved, there's a little bit more shy. So this is one thing you can do to make them feel like they're involved, make them feel a little bit cool, and kind of get them excited. And at the end of the day, you're going to make killer assets for photo and video. So again, I think another great idea, Nick, knocking out of the park, because One more thing that you can do, they get the groom excited, get his groomsmen excited, and in turn, what's that going to do? It's going to make the bride happy, and I think that's a huge thing.
And if you're not a handshake guy, try the tunnel. The tunnel's cool. It makes for amazing photos.
Oh, yeah.
You know, take it from her as a photographer herself.
And video.
And video. The videos are cool. We could chop it up for you and make it super sick. So, no tucks given every week. Guys, we did not forget about you. We will never forget about you. Get the boys together. Let's do some cool stuff. Let's make some memories.
Agreed. No tucks given. I'm actually, the segment is growing on me, and I think it's really needed, so I'm excited about it.
So it's growing on you so much, and you think it's so needed that you're going to come up with a shh.
Probably not. But
My dad likes it so much he wants a T-shirt
yeah,
that says that.
Julia called me up.
He
She's like,
actually did.
my dad wants a no tucks given T-shirt.
Well, from what I've heard about your father, I think your dad would also want the shh. So now we got to put it in there. Now we got to put it in there,
So kind of bringing today to a head, I think a fun way to end this thing is we'll do one that's kind of just a little funny list here, and then, like I promised, I will wrap up the stealing of the card box on a pro tip. And then before I do that, though, a couple things. So in the future, as soon as next month, we do plan on having some really fun, exciting guests on the show.
Wait, we're having guests on the show?
We're having guests on the show.
Oh, man. Let's do it.
Now, we do have a couple that are in the pipeline. I'm not going to tell you yet because it's going to be a surprise. However,
You got to just put the tip in a little bit. Can't give the full shaft.
kid show, Nicholas. Oh,
Gotta
my
make it
gosh.
interesting.
Kid show. Jeez Louise. Anyways, so what I do want to tell the people out there, if you are someone who you think can bring some levity or a great story to our podcast, I want to hear from you. If you know somebody that you think would be fantastic and needs to be on this show, we want to hear from you. In addition to that, we told you guys last week, this is a labor of love. We're working hard for you guys. We're shooting content. We're doing the social media. Please like our stuff, share our stuff, subscribe, ring the bell, all that shit that I don't know what it does because I'm the old man. But please do all that because those are the things that are going to help us keep doing it to make this content moving forward for you.
And if you're watching us and you've watched us already, why aren't you subscribed yet?
And comment what you think.
You are getting very close to me having, if you want the I'll make you a deal. If we do the then we're going to have a douchebag meter in the corner of the screen.
I'm cool with that.
And every time you say something that I deem as douchebaggery, it's going to go bing.
I'm cool with that, but the likelihood of you doing that is very minimal because that requires exponential more editing on your end, which you've already made very clear you don't want to do.
That is correct, but you are not taking into consideration how much I would love to see douchebag.
It's editing you would like me
underneath
to.
you on a podcast, which would be fun. All right, guys. So we thought this would be a fun list to kind of go through today. So this is 10 signs you might be turning into a Bridezilla and don't even know it. So let's see how that works. So first of all, number one, you've said it's my day so many times that your fiance now says it in their sleep.
That's scary.
Scary. A little ridiculous, but I believe that has happened. Number two, you've ranked your bridesmaids by usefulness as opposed to friendship. I love that.
That is rude.
It is rude, but it's so true. Like, if you know one of your bridesmaids are going to get shit done, they are moving up the pecking order. There's no doubt about it.
Well, I think that's why you have a maid of honor. Like, the maid of honor should be the one that...
She might be lazy. I don't know.
That's brutal.
That's brutal. You gave your florist a 37-slide Pinterest presentation and a mood board for each table. A little ridiculous.
each table?
I mean, I think this is being a little facetious.
I mean,
but
to the
That's
florist,
crazy.
though, is insane.
I think maybe giving a single mood board for, like, the whole wedding, like, the vibe that you want, I feel like that's normal.
But listen, baby,
Maybe.
just give me a little bit of roses. I'm cool.
I don't think, like, for every table or that many slides is crazy.
You've considered firing a vendor because they've used the wrong shade of blush in a draft. That's
You're
actually
joking.
funny. That's funny. Listen, so I'll be honest with you. I don't know if this is a completely just facetious list or if there is some semblance of truth to it. There's got to be a little semblance of truth to this.
For sure.
How about you refer to your mother-in-law as the guest formerly known as invited? Brutal.
Maybe they just don't like the parent, the in-law.
So no names, please, but we did just do a wedding where the groom's parents were uninvited to the wedding and had a police force at the wedding to make sure they didn't show up.
I could see that being Julia, because if you guys recollect in the last episode,
What?
if you guys remember in the last episode, she said her parents get absolutely no say in her wedding at all. So I can see that one being Julia.
No, my parents would be allowed to go to the wedding.
I'm just joking. I'm just
Oh.
trying to get you riled up.
Oh my gosh.
Don't worry, Mr.
No, I
Webb.
said-
You're
I
getting.
We
didn't-
like you, Mr. and Mrs. Webb.
I
They had
promise no
say. I
tux
said
given
I'd
is coming from
listen to
Mr.
their
Webb.
2 cents.
I'm just trying to get you riled up. That's it.
You made your bridal party sign a contract, a real one with legal language. You've practiced saying, "I'm just very particular" in a calm voice, but still sounds threatening. You've used the phrase "ruining my aesthetic" about a +1's outfit. You've emailed your DJ a do not playlist longer than your guest list. We've experienced that.
Those are the worst.
That's crazy.
And
Then you might as well just shuffle your phone. Like, why am I here?
And you've cried about napkins, not on a napkin, about them. So that is today's list of the 10 signs you might be turning into a bridezilla and not even know it.
So, brides, if any of those apply to you at home, we are not sorry because you should fix it.
You should fix it, and remember, it's just a wedding.
It's just a wedding.
It's just a wedding.
Now,
Oh, wait.
I promised a pro tip. One pro tip before we're out.
All right.
So, card box getting stolen.
Mhm.
So, low-hanging fruit, have someone from the hall lock up your card box in the office.
Mhm.
However, higher fruit, but still fun. Get a 5 or 10 pound weight, like a flat weight, and people are actually putting those into the bottom of their card box so that if someone tries to grab it, they're thinking this is just filled with paper cards. It is now going to startle them, and it is much less likely that they're going to make a stowaway.
That's actually smart, but you're also giving it away to people.
Well,
You
I
wanna
might be
steal
giving it away.
cards.
Wow, now it's not going to work anymore.
I don't think the criminals are watching our podcast on the reg, to be honest with you.
Hey, if you want a tip on how to steal card boxes, we'll tell you
We
what
got
they're doing to prevent
hashtag steal
them.
my card box.
Just screw it into the table. Who cares? Screw it.
So, well, listen, I'm glad we got through this one. It was a tough one, so we gave you a bunch of information. We love you guys. It's just a wedding podcast,
It's just a wedding podcast.
It's just
What
a
are you?
wedding podcast.
and
not
we
the knot.
are out.
I know this one. It's just a wedding podcast.